goodness, you guys. Hi. Welcome to 5 Question Friday. I am Sarah of Expat in Croatia. Every Friday at 5 o'clock Croatia time, I answer 5 questions from people who have sent them in on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, expatinCroatia.com, email, my consulting sessions, and people who stick them to my back. I'm a little out of sorts. I won't lie. Because I never lie. I'm completely honest about everything all the time. So Danielle, our social media manager, and I just spent a day in town in Split filming some videos, and one of the videos was episode 2 of Honest Rakia Reactions. So I drank 3 big rakias on an empty stomach, and then I, with enough time to safely drive home, came home and rushed in, and that's why we were like 3 or 4 minutes late, because I just did not have enough time to both mildly sober up and also get here. So now I'm here, but it was a rush, so I'm a little out of sorts, I won't lie. So first, before we get into our questions, which we have 5 great questions today, there's a few things I want to share with you, as always. So first, I was in Zagreb this week. That was a very tough yet great fruitful trip. So there was a gentleman that I met when I was in Bucharest in October at that diplomatic event between Romania and Croatia. And he's the honorary consul from Romania to Croatia, although he's from Split. And he invited me to come and meet the American Chamber of Commerce, which I did on Tuesday. And that was amazing. Absolutely amazing. So Expat Croatia is now going to be a member of the American Chamber of Commerce. Now, this is a global organization, and there are tons of giant corporations in it. The president is actually from Coca-Cola, Croatia, but not all of them are American companies. It's just a really great organization for companies of all kinds of sizes. Although they told me that only 30% of them are small businesses, and I would say that Expat Croatia is still considered a small business. So we're pretty excited to join that organization. So that was really fruitful. Also, a development on Schengen that I must announce. So we have gotten a lot of questions about, okay, so I have a residence permit in Croatia, and technically I'm supposed to be here for X amount of time, but what if I go to France or Germany or the Netherlands? Like, how is Croatia supposed to know if I have left Croatia? And that's a valid question, and we weren't sure of the answer, but we found out this week. Oh, by the way, Kate Gauman, thank you so much. I love this dress. This is I think it's 1950s vintage nightgown, but I really like it. It's just a dress. I got it at a vintage shop in Trieste during my holiday, and I love it. So thank you so much. All right. So what we found out this week is there's this system called the Schengen Information System, which we knew about. We have it in our guide on Schengen. If you want our guide on Schengen, we'd be happy to send it to you. It includes a bunch of frequently asked questions. So all the questions we're getting about Schengen, we're adding them to the bottom so that you can see the answers to those kind of real life situation questions. But in this case, one of the questions we've frequently gotten is, how does Croatia know if I'm gone from Croatia more than the time I'm allowed to be gone from Croatia if I'm just traveling around Schengen? And the information that we had originally about the Schengen Information System is that it was going to contain all of the border changes, when someone crosses the border to Schengen, no matter where it is, and then it was going to include missing persons, wanted persons, and lost and found. That's what they publicly said, but we weren't sure if police registrations would be included. So whenever you travel, in most places in the world, but let's talk about Europe, you have to give your passport whenever you check into some kind of accommodation, and that's because they're registering you with the police. So we weren't sure if that kind of registration was going to be included in the Schengen Information System. So what we found out is, yes, it is. So that means if you leave Croatia and you cross the border without any kind of border checks because you're just going from Croatia as a Schengen country to another part of the Schengen zone, and you check into any kind of accommodation, Croatia is going to know about it. So that's really, really important to understand. So if you decide that you're going to get residence in Croatia and then try and spend too much time outside of Croatia per the rules, but you're just going to another Schengen country, please do not be surprised if Croatia cancels your residence permit, because technically you'd be violating the rules. The amount of time that you can spend outside Croatia differs depending on your situation. So it's different for EU citizens and their spouses. It's different for spouses of Croatian citizens. It's different than third country nationals. It's also different than people who are getting their permit based on work. So there's a lot of variations, and we have a guide on that. So if you would like to see it, just send us a DM. We'd be happy to share it with you. What else? Also, I have 2 updates on expanding the Expat in Croatia team. So one, we've been looking for a junior consultant for, 4 or 5 months now, and we have it down to 2 candidates, which is super exciting. The team is interviewing them now. So we're hoping that we can bring on someone new to our team by the end of February, which is so super exciting. That means that we'll have our 10th staff member. Can hardly believe it, so yay. Second, I put up a new job posting 2 days ago. This is for a personal assistant for moi, because there's just way too much going on and I cannot possibly manage it all by myself. So I'm looking for a right hand, and that is up on our jobs page, expatrincroatia.com/jobs, so you can find that there if you are interested or know someone who might be interested. They have to be in Split. What else? I think that's it. Yeah. Oh, I'll say that at the end of the call. Okay. All right. This is not a call. Oh, Rakia, how I love you. All right, let's dive into the questions. If you're just joining us, I'm Sarah of Expat in Croatia, and I am going to now answer 5 questions who have been submitted by the audience. And my phone's almost dead, hence the contraption that I have in front of you. Okay, first one comes from Maurice. Maurice is one of our biggest fans. He has been following us for a long time. I've also done a ton of consulting sessions with him. I was listening to your latest 5 Question Friday episode when you touched upon the driver's license issue. I currently use my province of Ontario issued driver's license, Canada. My understanding is that I have 1 year to exchange that for a Croatian issued license. I have heard people mention you have to do some sort of psychological test when you are renewing a license. Do you know anything about this? Yes, I do, because I did it myself. So, when you are exchanging your foreign driver's license for a Croatian license, you have to get a medical certificate. Now, not all doctors do this, so you need to find a doctor that does this. Now, in my experience, I think I'm about to burp, but we'll see. It'll just be a nice surprise. I lost my train of thought. I should really not do honest Rocky reactions before 5 Question Friday, or maybe you'll just think, yes, you absolutely should, because you're way more entertaining. Okay, so medical certificates. In my experience, the places that usually do it the most commonly are polyclinica. So private polyclinica, these are practices that have multiple specialties inside of them. Usually they will do it. So you go there, you say you want a medical certificate, and then they give you a few different tests. It doesn't take very long. I think you can be in and out in like 20 to 30 minutes. But the first 2 tests are psychological tests. So there's 2 parts. So usually they put you in front of a tablet or a computer to take this. So the first one, they ask you a bunch of questions about your mental state. Like, how often have you been sad? When X happens, how do you feel? And they give you different choices. So there's that part. And then the second part is where they show you a bunch of shapes, like 4 shapes, and they say which one does not match. That one I had a harder time with. I was like, I don't know, some of these look the same. I feel like this is a Mensa test. Why is this necessary? But anyways, it's not that big a deal. And then they take your, they do a very basic eye exam, like very basic. Like I feel like I only did like maybe the first 3 or 4 lines. And they take your blood pressure, and then they send you on your way with your medical certificate. So it does sound weird to people who are from countries that don't have to do that, but it's really not that big a deal. between you and me, my ex-husband was a psychopath and he passed it. So I think all of you should be fine. Thank you so much, Maurice, for that question. If you want a guide on exchanging your driver's license, we have one. So just send us a DM and Danielle would be happy to send it to you. Okay. Next, this one comes from Muhammad on Instagram. I am a Pakistani citizen. If I'm on a digital nomad permit, can I travel the rest of Schengen zone freely? Does the 90 to 180 rule apply to you? The 90-180 rule still applies. So let me clarify that for anyone who does not know what 90-180 is. So whenever you are a tourist in Croatia, in a European country, in Schengen, you can only be in those zones for 90 days in a 180-day period. So if you have a residence permit in Croatia and you travel outside of Croatia to the rest of Schengen, yes, that 90 and 180-day period still applies because you don't have residence in Germany. You don't have residence in France. Like, you still have to abide by their rules. So it absolutely applies. And as far as being able to travel to the rest of Schengen freely, this is what I would say. Look, we do Croatia. Croatia is enough of a handful. We cannot possibly memorize the requirements for every single country on the face of this planet. But the general rule is that if you have a residence permit in Europe, then you can travel to the rest of Europe without a visa if a visa is required, entry visa is required for your nationality. So in his case, he should be able to do that. However, I still encourage everyone to check the entry rules for every country that they wish to enter before they do it. That's important. Okay. Thank you so much, Mohammed, for that question. Oh, by the way, we have, I think I mentioned this a few minutes ago, but I just want to reinforce it. We do have a guide on Schengen, and it has a bunch of frequently asked questions included in that. So send us a DM if you'd like to see it. All right. So next, this came from Pat. This was on a consulting session that I had. We are together 20 years, but are not married. Will that be a problem for residence? No. So under Croatian law, if you are in a committed relationship for more than 3 years, then in the eyes of the law, as far as immigration goes, you are considered married, common law married. So in their case, there are several different ways that they can prove their relationship for the purposes of residence. And the same goes for citizenship as well. So we do have a guide specifically on family reunification, which is what refers to a situation where someone is trying to apply for residence based on another person's status because they are related to them. That is family reunification. So we have a guide specifically on that goes over all the different kind of ways that you can prove that you're in a relationship. But I'm going to go over a few of them right now. So the most common is that you're living on the same address. If you prove that you have been living on the same address for at least 3 years, then that's a really easy way to prove it. If you have children, that's a really obvious way to prove it, because whenever you're bringing a child to Croatia, you have to provide their birth certificate anyways, in which case it would show the parents on the birth certificate. If you don't have either of those, then the next step is to make a statement in front of the notary public. It's just like it sounds. You go to the notary and you say, hey, we're in a relationship. We've been in a relationship this long. These are kind of the details about that. And they do it in Croatian, and then you can provide it to MUP, and that usually works. And then after that, you can, if that doesn't work for some reason, you can also use witness statements. That's people that have witnessed your relationship. They make a statement in front of their notary publics. It's okay if they're in another country, but it would have to be translated to Croatian. And then the last resort is social media. So if you can show time-stamped, date-stamped posts that show pictures of you, then that's another great way to show that. So if you'd like the guide to family reunification, send us a DM. We'll be happy to share it with you. Okay. Next question. This is from Ben. I spoke to Ben on a consulting session. I'm an actor. What resources are there for me if I want to act in Croatia? So the answer, there is an association called the Croatian Association of Dramatic Artists. We can send you the link to that. If you would like it, send us a DM. Also, much is done by word of mouth, which is pretty much everything in Croatia is done by word of mouth. which is very similar to how singers and painters and artists kind of get around and find jobs. There are also a couple of Facebook groups. There's Studio 8, which this is the literal translation. Agency for Croatian Statehood, Amateur Actors and Models. I'm not sure what Croatian statehood has to do with actors and models, but my guess is they're very patriotic. And then next there's one specifically for extras and actors. So if you would like any of those links, send us a DM, we'll send them to you. Thank you so much, Ben. Okay, is this our last question? Yes, it is. And it's from one of our favorite people in the world. This is from Katie. She sent it in on Instagram. I applied for residency through member of the Croatian people to then apply for citizenship by descent. I want to make sure I clarify this. So there is an opportunity for people who are descendants of Croatian immigrants who qualify for citizenship to get residence based on that heritage if they are coming to Croatia with the intention of applying for citizenship. We have a guide specifically about this. This falls under humanitarian reasons. Back to what Katie said. Unfortunately, my residency has taken so long to process that some of my citizenship documents are now past the 6-month validity date. Will I have to go back to my home country and get all of my documents and apostilles reissued? Or will MUP make an exception because I had to use my citizenship documents to obtain the member of the Croatian people certificate? So, when you are applying for residence as a member of the Croatian people, you have to obtain a certificate of the member of the Croatian people, which is something you obtain from the Office for Croats Abroad. And essentially, it takes a lot of the same paperwork that you would use to apply for citizenship. So you don't have to get anything extra. So that's what she's talking about when she references the certificate. So we cannot guarantee that MUP is not going to require her to get new documents, given that they were expired when she submitted them to MUP. They may make an exception because they were not out of date when she obtained the certificate for residence, but there's no way to know. Now, I will say that I submitted my citizenship application in July with expired documents. I know, I did do that. Because I was in the States in July 2021 and I obtained my background check and I got my birth certificate and all of that stuff got sorted out. And I really thought I was going to come back and immediately submit my citizenship application. But then that didn't happen. It just took so long to get everything else together and translated and blah, blah, blah. So whenever I submitted it, it was actually, both those documents were like a year from issue, which is definitely expired. Now, Split MUP did not say anything about it. But I am expecting MUP in Zagreb to say something about it. I really am expecting that. Now, I'm hoping that I can use some connections that I've developed over time to get past that hurdle so that I do not have to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get those again. But I don't know if that's going to happen. That's not within my control. I mean, look, it seems a little silly. In my situation in particular, first of all, in anyone's situation, birth certificates don't expire. Your birth is not going to change. So I don't know why that is something that even has an expiration date. As far as the background check, I can see why they would be hardcore about that. In my situation in particular, I've lived in Croatia for almost 11 years. I haven't been in the States since I got that background check. When I went to go turn in that application, I gave them both my Croatian background check, which took 5 minutes, and then my American background check, which took lots of headache and money, even though I haven't lived in the States. And they threw away my Croatian background check and only took the American one. So I have also seen another case, and also an American. He applied for citizenship based on marriage, and he did not have his background check at all, which I don't even understand how they accepted it for processing. But they were like, look, we've tentatively approved you, but now you have to get your background check and then we will officially approve you. So what I would say to Katie is there's just no guarantee. They may come back when they're processing and say you need to provide updated documents. Whenever you are submitting an application for either residence or citizenship, they always give you one opportunity to fix stuff. Like they'll always come back to you once and say, hey, these are the problems. Can you please fix them? So it's not a situation, it's unlikely that they would deny her because of that reason, because those are things that can be replaced and sorted out. So I would say she just has to wait and see what MOP says. And in my situation, I'm just going to wait and see what MOP says. And then I'll tell you all about it once I find out what they say. But I'm really hoping that they're just like breeze right past it. And they don't make like a big deal about it. So we'll have to see. All right. So I've got a few questions that have come in. Sarush asks, hey, Sarah, is there any chance to get dual residence in Croatia? You're not supposed to have dual residence. You're supposed to have residence in one place. So it really just kind of depends. Like the European Union shares information. So if you have residence in another European country and then you apply for residence in Croatia, that can be, problematic. So it really just depends on your particular situation. There's so much of the picture that I can't see. But the general idea, and this goes for most countries, is they want you to be a resident in one place, not two. Because when you have residence, there are requirements for how long you have to be in that country to maintain that residence. And if you are in Croatia, in most cases, if you're not an EU national, you have to be in Croatia for at least 9 months. So I don't know how you'd be able to maintain residence anywhere else if you have to be in Croatia for 9 months out of the year. Thank you so much for that question. Oh, who has the handle deliciously damaged? I love it. Thank you. That's fantastic. Well done. Okay, next from Seth. My family is from Greece and I'm trying to track down and prove the location of residence on the island for my great-grandfather in the 40s. Where do I find these documents? In Split? You would need to go to Matični Ured. That is the registrar. I don't know if there's one on Greece off the top of my head. But you can send us a DM and we can send you a guide on how to obtain a birth certificate, and we'll include a link to all of the Matični Ured offices in Croatia. It's possible it's in Split, but I just don't know all of the offices off the top of my head. There might be a registrar that's actually on Vis, but that's who you would contact. So you would contact them to see if the record exists. Now, given that he was born in the 1940s, two things could be possible. So birth records that are from after World War II usually are digitized, not in all cases, but usually they are. Before World War I or during, in most cases it's not digitized, which means it's held in a different place, like in the National Archives, but then you also run into a situation in some villages or smaller islands where the birth record is actually with the church. So it just kind of depends. The first step is you would go to Matični Ured, the registrar for Vis, and see if they have the record for your great-grandfather. Thank you so much, Seth, for asking that question. Okay. All right, next. This is from Cancro. Hey, Cancro, thanks for joining today. Once you get permanent residence, can you lose it? Yes, you can, actually. So when you have permanent residence, well, I mentioned this earlier. I said, when you live in Croatia, you have to be in Croatia for a specific amount of time, okay? And that continues to be the same with permanent residence, although it changes. So I have permanent residence, for example, and under the guidelines for my nationality, as a third country national, I can be gone from Croatia for 2 years before they will cancel my residence. If you are an EU national, it's longer. If you are a UK citizen with protected status, you can be gone from Croatia for 5 years. I find that odd because I think for European citizens, it's like 3 years maybe that you can be gone from Croatia, but UK citizens with protected status got 5 years. That's just part of the separation agreement. I don't know why. But that's just the case. So yes, you absolutely can lose permanent residence if you're gone from Croatia for too long. Thank you so much, Cancro. If you would like our guide on how long you can be gone from Croatia without losing your permanent residence, send us a DM. We'll send it to you. Okay. You have any more questions? Let me see. No, I think we're good. Oh, Rosa Andres. Hi. Okay, that's it for this week. Next Friday, I will be in London. So I will be doing 5-question Friday from the UK, and I hope that I realize that we have a time change because I will have to do it at 4 o'clock and not 5 o'clock. For those of you who were here for our Bucharest episode, Maria and I did not realize that we had changed time zones. So we did 5-question Friday at 4 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock. I will absolutely do my best to remember this when I'm in the UK next Friday, but who's to say? Who's to say? I lastly want to give a shout out to Hotel Santa Lucia in Split. So Danielle and I were there today doing this video for a future post, this Honest Rakia Reactions, the reason I am the way I am today. And we found like kind of a quiet corner, and we were doing it there, and then the manager of the hotel came over and she was like, hey, I noticed you're filming, like we have a really beautiful empty room if you would like to use it. And we were like, yeah, we would. So they gave us a key and we got to go up to a really stunning room that overlooked Piazza, and we got to do it there, which was so nice of them. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Ooh, and that reminds me, one last thing. I want to say hi to Cecilia from Peru. I ran into her last weekend maybe. I was taking a walk with my friend around Split, and she ran into us and was like, hey, Sarah. I was like, hey, Cecilia. So that was pretty cool. And actually today when I was at Santa Lucia, I ran into Jackie. So hi to Jackie too. Thank you so much. Oh, hey, Danielle. Yes. This is the greatest job in the world. Danielle says, only on our team do we have business meetings where we pound Rocky on camera and eat spaghetti bolognese. Yeah. Best job ever. Thank you so much for being here. Love you so much. It's such a joy to be with you every Friday. So I will see you next Friday from London. Bye. Vini will say ciao.